Hello and welcome. My name is Alan and we are back for more Spooktober. For today's video, Monday, we are looking at one of the lesser known cryptids, unusual monsters. A lot of people have heard of the Dogman. Even more, almost everybody, I'm sure, has heard of Bigfoot, the Sasquatch. But this is a variant. At least some people attribute it to being a variant of um, Sasquatch, of Bigfoot. Though, if it truly is, hard to say. It's even hard to say what it truly actually is, where the tales come from. But anyway, let's jump into this from the Cryptid Wiki. It is known as the white, also known as the white thing, a woolly-haired cryptid reported across numerous counties in West Virginia, predominantly within the southwestern region of West Virginia. The counties with the most sightings are Boone, Kanawha, Putnam, and Mason, with a surge in sightings taking place in Boone County during the mid-1990s. Now, I've also heard tell of sightings in Kentucky, which, of course, southwest portion of West Virginia borders with Kentucky. So that's a very likely possibility that that is something that could be going on. Let's see. It has been described as being a quadruped, four-legged, about the size of a bear, with entirely white, wool-like fur. It has a long and pointed head, similar to a dog, but with long saber-like teeth and a single point set of horns, not dissimilar to those found on a young goat. So, yeah, it's got goat or ram-like horns, sharp teeth with a muzzle. But yeah, fairly good size. Said it's almost the size of a bear. Normally goes along on 4 limbs, but apparently it also can go along on 2. Its 4 limbs end in paw-like hands, similar to those of a raccoon but larger, made while its tail is long and hairless, like that of an opossum, which is quite different from other known tales of Sasquatch. A long, nude tail, bear tail. So yeah. It is reported to smell like sulfur, which has been attributed through folklore to the beast being born within the TNT area in Mason County, similar to the way Mothman theories are. If you know about the Mothman, it lives in the TNT section outside Point Pleasant. But yeah. Though some may say it is instead that it has a musk scent gland similar to those found in other species, like weasels, skunks, so on. We have sightings. 1994. Navy seaman said he had witnessed the beast breaking through the forest. The white thing breached the brush line and knelt to drink from the creek. Here it drank for a few minutes before crossing the creek and continuing toward the nearby road. The witness stated that he observed the animal for a while before it moved on into the surrounding brush. Within the same year, 1994, two children observed the creature while playing in their yard within Boone County. What they reported having observed looked like a large white bear, yet in this case stood up on its hind legs, making it over 6 feet tall. Presumably it did so in a manner similar to bears trying to observe as opposed to walking bipedally. It startled the children and the beast ran off, or it was startled by the children and ran off through the forest, breaking medium-sized limbs of trees in its path. So, remember, in this area of the country, the bear you have is usually a black bear. Often, they'll get a little over 6 feet if they stand on their hind limbs. 6'5", maybe 7. That's about all you're looking at. They don't get hugely tall. So yeah, they're not like the more vicious-looking bears you see sometimes in movies. The grizzlies, the Kodiak, the polar. The American black bears, the smallest of them, it's also fairly timid. It'd rather avoid confrontation. But yeah. So, from what we've been able to ascertain up until this point, it usually moves on all fours, but it can get up on the back legs, look about. Apparently, though, some people proclaim it can walk on the back legs, but from more of what we're seeing, reading here, it's on all fours most of the time. 95 creature was spotted spotted a year later, this time involving a car. Couple driving through Boone County observed a large white beast sitting in the ditch alongside the roadway. Many curious passerbys might do in such a situation, as many curious passerby might do in a situation, they stopped the car to get a better look at it. They came to describe the creature again as mostly similar to earlier descriptions, yet they added that the creature had 4 eyes, in stark contrast to the last sighting where the Sheepsquatch fled the scene. The creature leaped out of the ditch and started to attack the car. Frightened by the attack, the couple drove off quickly. Once they arrived back at their home, they noticed large scratches on the side of the car where the beast had attacked it. 1999. A couple of campers who were in the forest at night, again in Boone County, around a bonfire. They eventually heard an animal snorting and scuffling around a camp in a manner similar to an aggravated bear, though it did not come into the light of the campfire immediately. All of a sudden, the sheepsquatch suddenly charged out of the darkness at the campers. They reacted quickly, jumped up, and ran back to their house. And while being pursued by the sheepsquatch, giving chase is a natural reaction of a predator when a creature flees, its initial attack could have simply been a mock charge. The white things stopped at the edge of the forest when they crossed it and let out a terrible scream. It then turned around and headed back into the woods. The next morning, the campers returned to the campsite and the trail home, finding it to be torn up. They referred to it as like someone had tilled it up for gardening. So yeah, destroyed. I mean, seriously destroyed. If it's like they tilled it up for gardening, there had to be deep marks, gouges into the soil, and everything. Interesting. So, it is often aggressive, but sometimes we've also seen sometimes it can be non-confrontational. So, 2015 in Folks Run, Virginia, so not West Virginia, Virginia, the beast was spotted once again in the forest of Appalachia. The creature was spotted close to midnight by 6 campers spending the night in the dense woods. The beast was reportedly 8 to 9 feet tall with a shoulder length of 4 to 5 feet. Yeah, that's wide shoulders. One of the campers first saw the beast at the top of a nearby hill in a crouching position. Then it stood up and he alerted the other campers. Then it started running down the steep hill toward the campers, but they were separated by the river that was flowing through. They looked in horror as it searched for a way to cross, and with no other option began to wade through the river. It finally came out of the water, and the campers reported it appeared like a bipedal dog in the chest with fur wet from river crossing. Then a loud gut-based screech was heard about 2 miles off from where they were, and the sheepsquatch looked up in shock, just high enough to the moonlight shone at its face, and the campers looked on in fear and let out a pathetic whimper. Then in a sprint, ran in the opposite direction of the noise. The campers quickly packed and left, then reported it to the locals, fearing that if the authorities were informed, they would be ridiculed. The identity of the campers unknown as of March 2016. So yeah, there's 3 different years of sightings. There's more, but again, the Sheepsquatch was featured in Destination America series Monsters and Mysteries in America, where it was encountered by a couple of hunters who had killed after it had killed their dogs the time before. The Wild Appalachia update to Fallout 76 added the Sheepsquatch as a new cryptid. And the grotesque creature has the ability to use quills on its back as weapons. I remember that. Yeah. That's one suggesting we don't honestly know, though. But yeah, the sheep squatch, sometimes suggested to be the same as the white thing. Let's open this up, see what they say about the white thing. White things, white devils, or devil dogs, most notably the Sheepsquatch. Almost all white things are described to have dog-like features, but in different accounts, some are humanoid creatures like Bigfoot, demons, or even prehistoric cats. So interesting. Interesting. In Cherokee lore, the sudden appearance of a white wolf heralds a magic premature death. Over time, the white wolf becomes a white dog in Appalachian lore. The dog is large and powerful in build and a handsome creature despite hair that is somewhat matted and unkempt. The dog shows up in roads, follows people home, and sits at a distance from dwellings as though waiting for someone. The white dog does indeed wait not for a friend or a lost owner, but for a death. It is always been by the person who is about to die, and sometimes by others who are close to the person. The dog is invisible to others, and once the white dog appears, the person is marked for death and dies tragically within a few days or 2 weeks. Interesting. So yeah, those two are kind of linked together, Sheepsquatch and white things. This is from East Tennessean, October 28, 2024. It's almost a year ago. If I had a nickel for every squatch I've written about, I'd be pretty rich, and that's without even leaving the mountains we call home. Hailing from Boone County, North Carolina, with an average height of 9 feet and a shoulder width of 4 feet 6 inches, is the Sheepsquatch. Though this species would be pretty upset to hear themselves compared to a Sasquatch and supposedly kill their cousins if they see them. Perhaps with this in mind, we should call them sheepmen instead. The only problem with a name like that is that I'm sure they would get confused for the goat man. And given that they look almost identical except for the longer and curlier horns and the puffy coat that makes regular sheep iconic. Multiple news stations discuss them, including West Virginia news station. Let's call West Virginia the cryptid capital, who states that it's been spotted since the mid-1990s. Despite its name, multiple sources report that it has a dog-like head, and in a move that isn't surprising to anyone, featured in Fallout 76. But they talk a little bit about it, so we've got sightings in West Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina, and you might as well say East Tennessee, right along that Appalachian Mountain area there. Now, can a species only exist in such a small area? yes, there are species that have been relegated to only a handful of islands, nowhere else in the world. But these are larger species. Like they said, about the size or a little bigger than a black bear. Hmm. If you were to think there's a breeding population to exist, someone would have seen them in the mountainous region here in the lower to mid Appalachians. But as of yet, there's no capture, nothing like that. It's just sightings. What else have we got here? We've got Paranormal West Virginia, WBOY 12. Talking about from Clarksburg, West Virginia. Mothman, Bigfoot, and Sheepsquatch. Though it may not be one of West Virginia's most well-known cryptids, the Sheepsquatch is still one of the most unique cryptids in West Virginia folklore. The Sheepsquatch and White Thing folklore, because the two names are sometimes used interchangeably. I'm sure you'll find people say no, they're not the same, but a lot of people say yeah, they're the same thing. So yeah. There's a cryptid themed miniature golf course opening in Morgantown, West Virginia, they talk about. Anyway. Clio, a website where people can document local historical and cultural sites, also describes the story of a Croatian immigrant who encountered a creature on his way home from work in Marion County in 1929. Frank Kozel took a shortcut through the woods after working at the Jordan 93 mine. During his walk home, he claimed to be attacked by a beast about the size of a large dog with white hair, a bushy tail, and sharp teeth, though it didn't have any signs of injury on Kozel after he supposedly escaped. And you can see a number of differences from what he proclaimed to what others proclaimed. Season 1, Episode 12 of the show Mountain Monster focuses on the Sheepsquatch of Boone County. A team of West Virginia monster hunters constructs a razor wire trap in an attempt to capture the creature. So yeah, they talk about the Sheepsquatch there. Let's see. WBKR. Looks like it's a radio station, 92.5. Have you ever seen Breckenridge County's Sheepsquatch? Kentucky. Netter kept referring to this part of Kentucky as Appalachia. Not so much, right? Yeah. Breckinridge County is a little further in Kentucky, so yeah. Not so much Appalachia. It's like J.D. Vance trying to proclaim he was born in, he was from Appalachia. It's like, no. Where you grew up was not Appalachia. But anyway, yeah. And then we have this piece. Wake up, sheeple. It's the Sheepsquatch. And yeah, he talks about it a bit. And their use of puns. Until then, you, like a baby sheep. Is it baby or female sheep? Anyway, you will just have to stay put. I'm already yawning. I apologize for all the yawning, guys. There we go, though. A good look at who the Sheepsquatch might fully be. Personally, I don't think it exists. A lot of the times, what is proclaimed as this or that is mistaken creatures or just a good tell. Here in the Appalachia region of the country, especially mid to lower. I don't think it's real. Like I said, interesting story, but now there might be other creatures that have other conditions that it's being that are being mistaken for something like a Sheepsquatch. Squishing a bottle, sorry for all the noise there. As far as what? That's another question. I mean, there are creatures that are supposed to be extinct that we have had sightings of. Mountain lions being one of them. They haven't supposedly hadn't lived in this area of the country in a long time, but we still have sightings. But something like the Sheepsquatch, I don't know. Maybe it's some albino creature. People say, well, what about a tail? Well, if it's supposed to be like one of these bear tails, these naked tails, like an opossum, it could be a part of the forest or the background that's been mistaken to make it look like it's got a tail. The biggest issue, I mean, because a lot of it you can explain away to being an albino bear, but the horns. The horns are probably the biggest issue with trying to explain what it might be. So, but yeah, all in all, I don't think it's a real. Again, interesting tale. But that's about it. Anyway, we'll go ahead and end this episode here. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.